I now call upon the member for Caroni Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In accordance with the provisions of paragraph 2 and 3 of the Standing Order 16, I raise the matter today, Madam Speaker, of the need for government to ensure that there is a constant and reliable water supply throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, based on what I am hearing in my own constituency and what I am hearing from constituencies around me and what I am hearing from constituencies further away from me, I think that we are approaching, if we are not already there, something of a water crisis. Several communities in the constituency of Caroni Central have been experiencing grave difficulty. They do not receive pipe-borne water except sporadically, and truck-borne supplies are few, and this happens in between days, sometimes a week, sometimes more than a week, passing without any water at all being delivered, either through the pipes or with a truck to the homes. These communities include Presal Village, Chiclan, Grand Couva, Arena Road, Freeport, Caparo, Ciudas Road, and several other communities, and this happens from time to time. In other parts of the country, Madam Speaker, several communities from Caranage to Toko along the east-west corridor, not every community, but in between along the east-west corridor, most communities in central and south and the deepest part of the southern border, and communities on the north coast as well, have also been under pressure by not receiving a predictable water supply during the period. And this is a period that is especially grave because the Met Office predicts this to be one of the driest seasons ever. I have two documents here which represent complaints that I've had for the last 3 weeks in my own constituency. And I want to draw on the January 10, 2019 media release of the Met Office in which they made the assessment of the criteria necessary for the onset of the dry season, showing that conditions have been met and are now entrenched. And they basically indicate that it is a combination of reasons for this, one of them being climate change, but the other homegrown reason really is the management of the flow of water within the available supply in Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, one day after that 10th January report, media released by the Met Office, the Minister of Public Utilities indicated to citizens that there were plans in place to deal with the dry season. And basically, that was an assurance that things would not turn out to be bleak. And although the dry season might be harsh, we would have water, because in addition to that, both from the Met Office and from WASA and from the ministry, we got warnings that we should conserve water, we should try and manage it, etc. But if you don't get water in your taps, and if you don't get any pipe-borne water, then there is nothing to manage or conserve. And this is the situation in which many of the citizens of this country find themselves, Madam Speaker. And we also had editorials, one from The Guardian and one from The Express. The Guardian is on the date 2/11/2019, and the Express editorial is on January 4th, 2019. And they speak of these perennial water woes and the difficulty of communities. In the Guardian editorial, many of the communities are in fact mentioned having these difficulties with water and with suffering, without water and with suffering. Now, Madam Speaker, I raised a question on this matter on the last sitting of Parliament, not today. And I asked it to the Prime Minister at that time. The acting Prime Minister answered, but I wasn't satisfied with the answer. And because question time ended when he gave his first answer, I could not follow up with any of the issues. And as I said, I found the answer unsatisfactory, and I hope the minister who is present will in fact give some answers of what is to be done to bring relief to the citizens in the communities which exist in my constituency, but also all of these communities, because water is an essential ingredient. You can't live without it. You can't function without it. And it really causes a tremendous hardship when you do not have it. And the unpredictability of it is perhaps the hardest kick of all. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to raise this in a context in which, you know, in 2010, there was an 18% reach of pipeborne water to the population. By 2014, under the then minister, the member for Chaguanas West, we had gotten to the point where we had achieved a 73% reach. How did that happen? That ministry at that time, up to 2014, early 2015, laid out about 1,000 kilometers of pipeline. That exists now. They added 18.4 million gallons of water to the pool. And that was per day to the pool, potable water. So they added that to the distribution system. And they did that on the basis of the way they manage desalination water and on the way they also manage ground and surface water sources. Now, at that time, they did an assessment, and they assessed that what we needed in Trinidad and Tobago, which is a high consumption country for water compared to other countries, and we do need to conserve, so I support the minister in the whole call for conservation, is that we needed we needed about 270-something million gallons of water per day, but we actually had about 241.8. So we had a deficit of 17.2 million gallons per day, which means that for all intent and purposes, notwithstanding that you had improvements, water still had to be managed. So my question to the Honorable Minister is, what have you done? And what can you do to relieve the situation? There must be some things that you've done to build on what was our legacy, or build on what we were able to contribute. And there must be some things that you must be considering now to bring relief to the ordinary people. And Minister, you would appreciate that this seems like a simple matter when you talk about water. It sounds like an everyday affair, but to people whose lives have been disrupted by lack of water, it is not an everyday affair. It is really a stressful thing. And if you have children compounded in this situation, if you have to go to work, if you have chores to do, etc., it is a very unhappy thing. You and I know if you don't get water for 2 or 3 days, you're like a fish out of water, literally. All right? It's very, very hard in your home because you are accustomed to that as part of your comfort. So the question I ask is, what have you done so that what have you done that we are in this situation now? And secondly, what can you do or what are you willing to do to make it better? Now, there are things that can be done, and they were identified in the manifesto that we did in 2015, that we needed to have new sources of water supply, that we had to reduce demand, so I support you on that.
Central, your speaking time is now spent.
Okay.
Minister of Public Utilities.
So I leave the questions